Another major shakeup at the Pentagon. Tonight, Navy Secretary John Phelan is out, effective immediately, with no official explanation. This comes after a broader purge of top military leaders under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He has already forced out more than a dozen senior officers, the shakeup reaching the highest levels of the armed forces, including the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Army Chief of Staff and other top commanders. All of it as the Navy faces pressure to expand shipbuilding and prepare for a bigger role overseas as the U.S. keeps up its naval blockade in the Middle East during this very fragile ceasefire. Joining us to discuss is retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey, also an NBC News military analyst. General, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you, Joyce.
Well, let's just start with what are you hearing about the why behind Phelan's firing, and what's your reaction?
Well, look, the Pentagon's been in considerable chaos since Secretary Hegseth moved into office. He's fired lots of senior uniformed officers. Many of them, we work on these guys and gals for 20, 25 years to get them prepared to assume these high responsibilities. Their loss in a sort of a sweeping renunciation of DEI. A lot of the women and minorities disappeared under Hegseth. So it's a chaotic situation. The loss of the Secretary of the Navy, probably not a big deal. He was a big donor to the Trump campaign. He had no relevant experience. He was at odds with most of the Pentagon leadership. So I think his loss is not too key.
He was an interesting. Oh, go ahead.
It's also important to understand that the service secretaries, those civilians, are in charge of the budget and the institution of their service, but they have no role in operational decision making. That comes from the President, the Secretary of Defense, and directly to the joint military commanders.
What does all of this upheaval do to military readiness?
Well, I think we have no national security process. Interagency consideration, options, analysis of the downside, red teaming choices, all that's disappeared. And essentially we have the President of the United States on Truth Social at midnight announcing new policies. It's chaotic. It doesn't make any sense. We're in trouble because of it. We're stuck in the Iranian operation. And I think a lot of it's just due to the abysmal leadership in national security and Congress's complete non-involvement in this process. Astonishing state of affairs.
I would guess that in your lifetime, a career in the military and beyond, that you haven't seen anything quite like this. And I'm wondering what you think about its impact on public confidence in the Pentagon and its readiness.
Well, you got two things happening. The actual armed forces that we watched hit 13,000 targets in Iran, did destroy most of the conventional military power of the Iranian Navy and Air Force. They did wipe out much of the senior leadership, both military and political. So I think the armed forces we ought to have a lot of confidence in. What we don't have confidence in is the lack of strategic thought. The victories of the military units are tactical in nature. What we need to know is, what's the whole point of this? We've got to open the Strait of Hormuz. We clearly got to get some capability to stop their nuclear weapons development program. And arguably, we're no closer to that, or less so than we were before we started this Trump campaign.
And a lot of people are suggesting that you can't really get on top of that program without putting men and women on the ground in Iran. So I'm wondering how you think just military members are responding to the current state of affairs.
Well, there's no question that the military is prepared to follow orders from the commander-in-chief. If they want to seize Karg Island, the 82nd can parachute onto that island and seize it. The Marines can go in and seize the 3 islands near the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think it'll change in any way the ability to open the international commerce in the Persian Gulf. They'd be bitter, terrible battles with casualties. The whole notion of the next step of seizing uranium at Natanz and Esfahan That would, in my view, probably be a division-sized 10, 15,000 soldier operation, a perimeter, Dien Bien Phu, Quai Son in Vietnam, a bad option. So there won't be ground operations in my judgment. We're stuck. Somebody's got to blink. I think the Iranians right now have more staying power than the United States does.
And I'm wondering what you think is going to happen next. Where are we with this war? We have a naval blockade, a blockade of a blockade, basically, because Iran seems to be controlling the actual strait. So what's next, and how long do you think this is going to go on?
Well, I don't think President Trump knows, so I certainly don't. I do believe that the likely outcome is both sides are desperate for political, economic, and military reasons to stop fighting. So the ceasefire, in my judgment, will probably stay in place. We can't control their nuclear program until we get international inspectors on the ground. So Mr. Trump's got to negotiate, and that means stopping the blockade, stopping the attacks on Iran, and trying to get some modicum of control over the threat. And by the way, Iran is a vile government. It killed 30 to 40,000 of its own citizens. We do not want them to have a nuclear weapon. But the way I think right now, the military option is off the table. It's not going to help.
So much changing, so much going on in the Middle East, and so many changes in leadership in our military, all happening at the same time. General Barry McCaffrey, always a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.